Hello, and welcome to the Early Childhood Health Consultation October webinar titled Bottle Feeding the Breastfed Baby, Beyond the Basics. If you're interested in Spanish interpretation during today's live webinar, please select the interpretation globe from the menu bar. Select Spanish from the list. You can also select Mute Original Audio to only hear the interpretation. My name is Maria Morgan, and I'm the Assistant Director with Early Childhood Health Consultation. Our team is so excited for you to be joining the session today. Our program is in partnership with the Wisconsin Department of Children and Families, housed at University of Wisconsin-Madison School of Human Ecology, and funded by the Preschool Development Grant. Our program is committed to supporting Wisconsin early childhood education providers and centrally focused on supporting their health and safety best practices. Our program envisions a sustainable and statewide model working through health consultation and centrally focused on promoting the health and well-being of children across the state of Wisconsin. The Early Childhood Health Consultation Program acknowledges the American Indian tribal nations across Wisconsin and commits to a partnership to offer tailored support and best meet the needs of each tribal community. Our program offers general guidance on best practices for health and well-being within early childhood settings. Any questions about a specific child should be directed to that child's primary care medical home. During today's webinar, we will start with introductions. Our guest speaker will walk us through central content. We will have time for a question and answer before closing. If you are interested in receiving continuing education credit with the Wisconsin Registry, please stay tuned to the end of today's live webinar, where we will include a link to a survey in the Zoom webinar chat. If you're interested in learning more about today's webinar recording, slides, or resources, an email for all those who've registered will be sent within next week. Additionally, a link to today's recording will be made available on our website and YouTube channel. During today's live webinar, there are a couple features available. If you are using a computer device, you are welcome to use the chat icon that you see on the screen here. You are welcome to send comments throughout today's session and use the drop-down arrow to send your comment or question to the host and panelists or to everyone. We also have the Q&A function available. If you use the checkbox, you can send your question anonymously. If you're interested in using Spanish interpretation and are on a computer device, select the interpretation globe at the bottom menu bar and select Spanish from the list. You can also select Mute Original Audio to only hear the interpretation. If you joined us through your cell phone, we do have the same functions available: the chat, the Q&A, and if your interpretation, select More. If you select More, you can then select interpretation from the list and Spanish from the pop-up menu. Here you can also see the Mute Original Audio as a toggle selection. And with that, I will turn it over to our program director, Dr. Dipesh Nazaria, to talk us through today's learning objectives.
Good afternoon, folks. Thanks for joining us again, as always. I'm so excited to have our speaker, Katie Talmadge, back. She gave a great presentation very recently, and we're really thrilled that she can do a follow-up. Today's objectives involve describing our best practices when handling human milk. There's numerous things to think about and talk about there. Explore some bottle feeding considerations, especially around nipple flow and choices of bottle shapes and sizes. Some helpful strategies about how to address bottle refusal when it occurs and how to think about it. And of course, how ECHC can be a support for all of us when these questions come up. And I would like to welcome back Katie Talmadge, who's a lactation consultant from the American Family Children's Hospital right here in Madison. Katie, welcome back. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I think this is a wonderful service that we're providing to wonderful people who care for our kids in the community. Those of you who are Here, I would love for you to introduce yourself in the chat. I would love to hear what your experiences are like with bottle refusal, with bottle shapes and sizes, with milk handling. Tell stories, share things with each other. Use this as like a networking time as well, because some of the things we're going to talk about today is just something that leaves us a lot really stumped. So I'll start sharing my screen, and those of you who are able and willing, please start talking in the chat. All right. Can you all see just fine?
Yes, we can see the
Okay.
slides.
Great. So bottle feeding the breastfed baby beyond the basics. The other part one to this was given a couple of months ago. It was just called bottle feeding the breastfed baby. Today we're going to build upon some of those basic things that we learned in that presentation. You don't have had to watch that presentation before this one, but I highly encourage you to go back. You might find a lot of answers to your questions in that. My name's Katie. I work at American Family Children's Hospital in Madison. I'm a lactation consultant. I take care of all the babies in the NICU, as well as breastfeeding dyads in the hospital and lactating people who are admitted to the main hospital. In addition to all that, I also support our employees when they return to work and are lactating. I have no conflicts of interest to close. I'm not affiliated with any infant feeding companies, bottle companies at all. I am an employee of the UW Health System, and I use an evidence-based model to practice and to teach. My references can be found in the final slide. Our objectives today is talking about human milk handling, kind of the weirder stuff. We talked about the basic stuff already. Bottle feeding, bottle nipple shapes and flows, bottle refusal, like what the heck, why is that happening? How can we handle it? And just general supporting the family strategies. First, the why. Why is this important? Why is this important to you specifically? Well, the report card that we got for Wisconsin in 2022 said that 87.5% of infants are ever breastfed, like one latch in the hospital, anything. But by 3 months, our rates drastically dropped to 59.3%. And then at 6 months, it's even further down to 31%. And what's happening in those, later months? Some of it is just, preference and whatnot and other compounding factors. But one of the main things is the return to work of the lactating parent. So that's where you guys come in, and that's where you can really make a difference in some of these numbers and helping these families feel supported to continue on their breastfeeding journeys, even after they return to work. A couple things first, this isn't a debate about what to feed the infants. Breast is best, fed is best, sucks, pun intended. Lactation consultant jokes are real. Supported is best. So please get those other two things out of your vocabulary. Even we think fed is best is supportive, but really it just supports the binary of the conversation. So all we want to do is support families in doing what they feel is right for their family. This isn't me telling you how to do your job. I highly encourage you to continue to follow your DHS policies and guidelines, work with your individual families to support their breastfeeding goals. We are here to learn about supporting breastfeeding families. So that means I'm not giving you medical advice. This information in here is discussed for educational purposes only. Seek individual advice from your pediatrician, your IBCLC, or a breastfeeding medicine doctor. This is not credentialing, so no one's going to walk away with, experts' knowledge here, but we are going to save that breastfeeding advice for breastfeeding experts and for physicians, but we can just be supportive people. You should never feel like you have to give breastfeeding advice to people, even after watching this. This is a space to learn about human milk handling, bottles, bottle refusal, and it's part 2 of 2. So go on to Early Childhood Health Consultation's YouTube channel and check out my first one if you haven't already. So back to the objectives. Some basic stuff for guidelines here. The important thing to remember about these CDC guidelines is that they're not for rancidity, but the cutoffs are for optimization of the milk. So while we're in our professional settings, we really do need to follow these to a T, but know that you don't have to throw away milk that's been out 2.5 hours after it's been thawed, or, you know, whatever just beyond on this is, you don't have to throw it out at that point. Really just save it, label it with whatever the concern is, and give it back to the family. Put that decision making on if it should be dumped or kept or used for other reasons, back in the hands of the family. Here's a CDC infographic for you on storage, handling, and preparation of breast milk. You can find this by going on the CDC website into breastfeeding resources and infographics. And there's a link here for you to check out too. These slides and whatnot will be available to you after the presentation. And so PDFs will be there for hyperlinks and whatnot. But this is a great one to print out and give to the relevant caregivers, and maybe even post it in relevant areas. So separation, it's normal. It happens. It happens to all milk, actually. Any mammal's milk, this will happen to. The reason we don't see it at the grocery store is because that milk is pasteurized. Normal raw milk will separate sitting in the fridge or at room temperature. The top, that creamy stuff, that's the fat. The rest is the water and the other electrolytes and nutrients that are there. There's no right or wrong amount of fat. One mother's milk might be fattier during one time of the day or during the other, or from one mother to the other, or from one breast to the other. There is no right amount. Our bodies perfectly make the milk for our babies. Once upon a time, we used to say, oh, only swirl the milk or roll the milk to mix it. Listen, as strong as you might be, you do not have the capabilities to hurt anything in this breast milk. So go ahead, pull a Taylor Swift and shake, shake, shake. Or like a Polaroid picture, or, okay, sorry. Anyways, point of the story is go ahead, shake it up. It's fine. Nothing bad's going to happen. And all of what you see here is normal. Even when it's frozen in this one here, you see the fat rising to the top there in the frozen state. That's fine too. Oh, colors, huh? All right. Yeah, all of them, all of the rainbow. Important thing to know, no matter what color it is, don't panic. Don't dump it out. Save it, label, ask a professional. But I'm here to tell you that they're pretty much all safe and normal. The colors that come in breast milk have a lot to do with what we eat, the dyes in our food, in our medications. Some of it has to do with the nutrients inside, like the more yellow milk is going to have more beta carotene in it from orange things that we eat, squash, carrots, etc. The reds, the pinks, the browns, those are going to have more to do with some sort of injury in the breast, either externally at the nipple. You'll see the more red stuff. The more brown stuff is going to be somewhere inside the breast. Just know that it is okay and it is safe for infants to consume the blood. They are not vampires. Sorry, it's spooky season. I have to. They're not little vampires, but it's okay. It's safe. In fact, infants that would be at the breast are going to swallow that milk and we don't even know anything about it. So truly, it's maybe just a better source of iron. Point of the story is that mom does need to see a lactation professional, does need to ask some questions to them and seek help for what's ailing them, but the milk is safe for the baby. Breast milk can have all sorts of smells, and it has a lot to do with what we eat and what we consume in our body. Soapy smells, we used to think were caused from like a high lipase, but recently that's been proven otherwise. So those who are scalding their milk and whatnot, they don't need to. It's normal for milk to maybe have a soapy smell, and a lot of babies really don't mind it. If you're finding that your baby or the baby is not taking it because you feel like it's soapy, that's the time to contact a professional. It can have a sour smell or taste. It can be smell like whatever food that parent has eaten, garlic, curry, you name it. And a lot of the times baby loves that because they've been enjoying parents' food choices since the placenta was formed. That's nothing new to them. And if the lactating parent smokes or recently ingested alcohol, it may smell or taste like that. Likely that is what's baseline for that family, and there's no need to change anything or insert anything in there. In the past, you've heard lots of things, I'm sure, about pumping and dumping, especially when it has to do with alcohol content. The rule of thumb at this time currently is that you do not need to dump it. If the lactating parent is sober enough to care for the baby. They're sober enough to feed the baby. And that has a lot to do with, because when the alcohol comes through to the milk and gets to the baby, it's likely in a sugar state by that point. It's very rare to be able to get a baby drunk off of breast milk. It's not, I want to say it's not possible, but I guess never say never. But the point of the story is the biggest risk to the infant in that state with a parent that has been drinking is SIDS and unsafe sleeping practices and unsafe judgment. So if the milk smells like that, there's nothing you need to do with it. It's okay. If the milk smells rancid, and like we learned in a previous slide, it's really hard for it to do. It would be worth getting back to the parent and saying, this smelled funny. Maybe let the baby taste it on your own time, do whatever you need to do with it, but this smells rancid to me. This doesn't smell safe. However, breast milk in general typically smells very pleasant, and it's very beneficial for baby, like aromatherapy. And when it comes down to it, with all these smells, when you think about it, humans enjoy very stinky things to eat all the time. Fish, cheese, you name it, right? Sometimes the stinkier, the better. Point of the story is don't worry too much about smell. Misadministration. This big word means that the wrong milk got to the wrong baby. So how do we handle this situation? The CDC has a wonderful outline on what to do if this should happen. So know that you can go to that link at the bottom and look this up, and it can help walk you through the situation. But to paraphrase, first thing is first, we got to do everything we can to prevent it. And I'm sure having safe storage and handling policies are in place where you work. Whoever is handling this milk needs to be well trained on those organization strategies and what to do if this should happen, as well as just having a really solid labeling process strategy, separate areas, bins, whatever it is that you do in your place that these children are being cared for. Act. So what if it happens? Well, first you have to tell them, you have to tell the families. I know that people are donating milk to each other and sharing milk all over the world. And for the most part, it is safe. However, that family deserves the ethical right to know that it happened, to know that either their milk fed another baby or their baby got someone else's milk. And that needs to happen. Medical screening can be done. A lot of what we do when we're doing medical screening for milk banks is just screening for HIV status, Heps B and C, and any sort of meds or lifestyle choices that parent might be making. And afterwards, follow up with that family, what was done. You know, share any relevant information or encourage that family go see a doctor, review the cause of the mix-up, how did this happen, and implement a plan or a policy or training for better prevention. So moving along, bottle feeding. So bottle nipples and flows. First, we have to think of what our goal is here. In this presentation, my goal that I'm talking about with nipple shapes is doing bottle feeding in a way that supports a breastfeeding relationship. So getting that baby back to the breast when they go home at night. When choosing a bottle overall, one should think about what their goals are. Maybe if the baby is exclusively bottle fed, then whatever bottle shape is working for that baby is the right one for that family. There's no need to change it. And overall, even in a breastfeeding relationship, if the baby's gaining weight and the breastfeeding relationship is meeting their goals, there's no reason to change bottles. So as we go through these next couple slides of bottle pictures and whatnot, know that I don't have any personal preferences, but we are going to talk about what's going to help support a breastfeeding relationship. So first thing we need to know is, what does the nipple look like in the baby's mouth? So let's watch this video.
Breast milk benefits a baby in many ways, providing the right balance of nutrients, helping to protect against illnesses and infections, and possibly helping with brain development. Many of your baby's physical characteristics are designed to help breastfeeding. The mechanics of sucking require as much contact as possible between the baby's tongue and jawbone and the mother's breast. To maximize contact, An infant's tongue is large in comparison to the size of the mouth, and the cheeks contain fat to help keep the tongue in the proper position for sucking. The same fat pads also ensure that the cheeks don't collapse while breastfeeding, which would reduce the size of the mouth and the negative pressure required to get milk from the breast into the mouth. A newborn's upper airway, through which air enters and leaves the lungs, also supports breastfeeding. A newborn's upper airway is very short, and the epiglottis, a flap of tissue at the base of the tongue that keeps food from going down the windpipe, touches the soft tissue at the back of the roof of the mouth. This combination of physical traits helps direct milk to the esophagus, which carries it to the stomach and reduces the risk of milk going down the windpipe. It also encourages the infant to extend the neck, which brings the lower jaw forward to maximize contact with the breast.
I love that video because it really just opens your eyes to what's actually happening when a baby goes to the breast. What is the anatomy doing? Not only in the baby's body, but the mother's body and how the mother's body reacts. So for
breast milk benefits.
For this purpose, we're going to focus on this little screenshot of that slide and notice how long the nipple extends into the baby's mouth. This is the nipple, this is the areola, and this is maybe breast tissue or just further areola. It depends on the anatomy of the person in front of us. A lot of people are marketing bottles to try to look like breasts, but the mistake they're making is that they're modeling it to look like the breast when the breast is at rest, not when the breast is in the mouth. So if you see a bottle nipple like this one, where it's just a little bit here, and then this wide base that the baby can't quite extend into their mouth, they are only going to have about this much of that bottle nipple in their mouth. And that's very foreign feeling. And their tongue's going to have to work differently than if they were at the breast. So all of these bottles that are marketed to look like a breast, they're not actually working like one. The exception is this bottle over here. They do have like a really stretchy base to it. This is like a really stretchy silicone. However, it's $55. I mean, people can't afford a bottle like that. And then when you go to use this bottle over here, this baby's being used. Well, that's cute that it looked like a breast when you were holding it, but right now that baby can't see anything, can't communicate with the caregiver. The caregiver can't see that baby's face to look for cues of if they're finished or if they're stressed or if they're overwhelmed. And that baby's flat on their back feeding, by the way, super annoying. Baby should be upright so that that milk can go in the right place, that they can be paced with that bottle, and that bottle can act like a breast as much as possible. Again, see my first presentation for that one. That one's gonna explain paced bottle feeding and whatnot a little bit better. And this is a joke. I wanted to make you laugh. Do you remember these from like baby bottle? Anyways, okay. Other bottle nipple shapes. So if we're trying to get the bottle to act like a boob, we need to make the bottle look like a boob when the boob's in the baby's mouth. So wanting that long, deep latch instead of a shallow latch. Now, what's wrong with the shallow latch? Good question. So when a shallow latch is happening at the breast, two bad things are happening. One, mom's nipple is getting pinched up against the hard palate of the mouth and with the tongue, and that hurts, and it's going to cause tissue damage, and it's going to shorten the breastfeeding relationship. Second bad thing that happens at a shallow latch is that baby is essentially kinking off the garden hose that they're trying to drink from. So baby's going to get less milk and suck harder and then cause more tissue damage and so forth. So shallow latches are bad. And that's why we don't want one of those other bottles reinforcing a shallow latch for this baby and their lactating person. So what I tend to look for is a longer, more like tapered type shape. A wide base is nice because it helps that flange and that big open mouth that a baby needs to do at the breast. This bottle right here is like $1.25 at Walmart. It doesn't have to be the most expensive bottle for it to be the best bottle for that baby. And a lot more has to do with how the caregiver is feeding the bottle rather than how the bottle itself can perform. So being really responsive to that infant, paying attention to their cues, all of this is, we went through in good detail in the first session. So go back and look at that if you'd like. Just really trying to know that when you're feeding a baby, there's a lot of communication happening. And if we're not paying attention, we might miss it. Baby might choke, baby might get pneumonia. And then baby just might not return to the breast at night. Again, don't go out and buy new bottles. If the bottle is working for the baby now, keep using that one. It's okay. Again, educational purposes only. Bottle nipple flow. I went into this a lot in the first part, but there's some things you got to know about nipple flow when trying to return back to the breast. There are no regulations on bottle nipple flow rates in the United States. From one company to the next, even within that company, whatever their level 1 is compared to their level 2 might have a bigger jump from one company to the next, or from their 2 to their 3. There's no regulations here. So it's not equal across the park there. And so for that reason, I'm going to tell you, do not follow packaging recommendations for bottle flow. It's going to say 0 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months, 6 whatever months. No, the idea here is we want to stick with the slowest flow that baby's going to tolerate. Why? Because we want the baby to return to the breast at night. There's no such thing as nipple confusion. No, but there is flow preference. And if the baby can get their milk super fast at the bottle, why would they go back to the breast that night and return to it? Right? The goal here in this conversation is to get the baby back to the breast. So we might accidentally cause premature weaning. That baby won't come to the breast anymore. Mom hates pumping. Don't blame her. Nobody signs up to feed the stupid pump. They sign up to feed the cute baby, right? So it might shorten that relationship and shorten the amount of time that they're exposed to human milk. And that reduces the benefits for baby and for mom. So take a deep breath. We're switching gears. Okay, we've talked a lot about getting the baby to go back to the breast while being at the bottle. Now we're talking about the baby that doesn't want the bottle. Okay, we're talking about the baby that loves the breast and doesn't want anything to do with your stupid plastic bottle. So what the heck? Babies love the breast. You can't blame them. They're smart and they value the breastfeeding relationship for so much more than the nutrition. They come to the breast for a lot. Why would they want to go to the stupid plastic bottle when they got the warm, cozy, lovey mommy, right? This isn't a baby problem. There's nothing wrong with this baby that doesn't want the bottle. There will be many strategies given to these parents before they even get to you. I didn't include a lot of those strategies in this presentation. What I focused on is what you can do once they're in your care. This is a systemic issue. It's created by society. It's prematurely separating parent and baby from their biological norms, but it's our reality. So what do we do? We're going to be very clear about our expectations for this time. Is baby losing weight? Do we need baby to take significant volumes while in your care, while away from the breast? Or is baby been doing great gaining weight and they feed wonderfully once the parent is back in the picture? So do we just need to get through like the day? Do we just need to be on survival mode, hydration, general contentment? This is a temporary issue. This issue doesn't last long, but it feels like it because it's high stakes. It's a few short months of this family's life. According to the Academy of Pediatrics, babies can begin using a cup when they are able to sit unassisted, typically about 6 months old. Babies should consume human milk exclusively for 6 months and then use complementary foods. So around the 6-month mark, we can start bringing table foods into the picture. And nutrition isn't just from the stupid plastic bottle. Okay, I've never said that before this presentation. I don't know why it keeps coming on my face. That's how I feel. So what's your role in this? Did you guys think I was going to solve this problem for you and tell you how to fix it? No, there's no fixing this, guys. You're not responsible for that either. You don't have to have the answers in this situation, but you do get to be an extra person in their corner, in their village of calm, friendly helpers. These parents are in rough shape. And I'm sure if you've ever met a family like this, you know it. They're grieving. They're doubting themselves. They're doubting their parenthood. They're likely coming to you having spent weeks exhausting strategies with multiple failed attempts. They are grieving what they wanted the last few weeks of their parental leave to be. Rolling in sideways, right? So you can communicate openly and gently with them. Assure them that you're there to help them, not to judge them. I highly recommend saying, you didn't cause this, and the baby isn't doing this on purpose. This is a situation we're in, and we're going to walk through it together. So we got to have some strategies here, right? We got to get creative. We got to try new things. Overall, what you got to know about all of these ideas I'm going to offer you, none of them are going to work when the baby's hangry and tired and in a hot mess, right? If they refuse one of these strategies while they're in that tired and hangry state, don't count it as not working, not yet. Try it when they're calm too. You know, I mean, it goes for us too. None of us can learn well if we're tired or hangry. I can't see you guys, so make sure you're eating a snack or something right now. If possible, you could offer a midweek start date, like half days or even practice runs before that parent has to return to work. You can try it out a little bit before they go. Even returning to work midweek can be nice because then, you know, you have a couple of days to struggle, and then you get the weekend to regroup and come up with new ideas. Paced bottle feeding and positions from the part 1 of these presentations, like sitting up or side lying. And in that presentation, I said, don't feed the baby facing away from the caregiver, but maybe in this situation, when we're just trying to get the baby to take the bottle, it's worth a shot. You can walk around the room and like look at things and talk about things. Try using the rooting reflex. So the rooting reflex is that reflex that happens when the bottle is brought, or the nipple is brought to baby's mouth and tickles the mouth, and the baby goes, ah. Or like when you got your Stanley cup and you're like searching around for the straw, that's rooting. And what baby does after the root is they open their mouth really big and they attack the breast, sort of. They kind of put themselves on the breast. And that's important when I'm teaching people how to breastfeed. I say you put the baby on the breast, not the breast and the baby. The breast is this soft, fleshy material. You can't get that all the way back there into that soft pellet that you saw in that video, right? So you got to put the baby on the breast. So this baby who's so good at going onto the breast, why are they going to be happy when you shove a bottle in their mouth? In this concept, the idea we're trying to reach here is that the baby can accept the bottle into the mouth. So you work on those natural instinctual reflexes to your advantage. So you kind of go like this and baby opens up, and then you can put the bottle gently into the mouth. If you are shoving the bottle in the mouth or corkscrewing it in there, perhaps that baby is feeling violated or attacked when something's being shoved into their face. So consider that when you're just trying your best to do, but consider that perspective from the baby. And then you can try different safe temperatures. You can try cooler milk. You can try slightly warmer milk. You can try even cold milk. Some babies will do that too. You could some people even say trying just to warm the bottle's nipple tip so that it doesn't feel so foreign when it's in the mouth. So maybe just kind of like holding that nipple tip for a little bit before it goes in can maybe just be less jarring for that infant. Other ideas, gentle motion before or during the feed. So moving around, walking, swaying, the rocking chair, maybe even getting a little sleepy beforehand might help, and that gets them to that calm, accepting state. Bum pats go a long way in the hospital, but boy, we do them all the time. And then just singing or any other sort of like distraction to make it less of a stressful moment. Babies look to us for their safety, right? They look to our demeanor and our energy for if they're safe or not in that moment. And if we're like, take the bottle, oh God, that doesn't feel too safe. Think about your boss or your leader trying to get you to do something in that state, right? You don't want to follow, you don't want to try something new or that you're not quite comfortable with in that state. The smell of the milk or the smell of the lactating parent can be really helpful. Wrapping that bottle in the caregiver's shirt, or even laying it across, in the parent's shirt, or even laying it across the caregiver that's feeding might help. And contrary to what we talked about with bottle nipples, there really isn't a best nipple for this kid. This kid refusing the bottle, it's okay to experiment. It's okay to try different things. You could begin your trying with the concept that what the nipple looks like in the baby's mouth, right? And this is the baby where we could try a slightly higher flow. But remember, the one that works might not be the most expensive. So when I say the slightly higher flow, I mean like when we want a slow flow bottle, we're trying to get that baby back to that breast at night. This isn't the baby that has a problem with that. So it's not quite the same strategy. And then some other kind of more like bridge, Hail Mary type ideas here are different methods of getting that milk into the baby. So spoon feeding, cup feeding, finger feeding. Finger feeding is commonly done in like newborn nurseries where there's like a small flexible like feeding tube taped to the person's finger, which is connected to a bottle or a syringe, and the baby's allowed is sucking on the finger, and you can kind of slowly push the milk in or let the milk kind of naturally flow in from a bottle. You can try a dropper syringe, breast milk, popsicles, or what I like to call momsicles. And then when they're older, the pressure to get them to take that bottle is less because then you can introduce a straw, you can introduce a sippy cup, you can introduce just a regular open cup with supervision and pacing, of course, but you're not stuck to just try to get them to take the bottle. So again, these aren't long-term solutions in this little column here, but rather a bridge to maintain hydration and infant just general well-being, satiation, calmness, until we can get that baby either back to the breast or until we can work towards our goals. So infant cup feeding. This is a backup plan, a short-term strategy. Someone who's experienced in this or you know, kind of gets experienced and practiced in this, they can get several ounces into the baby within a relatively normal time frame, like 20 minutes or so. It's done with a lot of careful supervision. And so if you wanted to try something like this, I wanted you to have a little tutorial on how to do it. So I'm going to show this video. At first it shows this Foley cup, which is a very specialized cup for this purpose. You don't have to have a cup like this to do it. You can use a shot glass, a Dixie cup, a medicine cup, any sort of kind of small receptacle will work.
Cup feeding is a safe, alternative way to feed a baby when mom isn't available or until the baby is able to feed at the breast. Many mothers want to avoid a bottle in the early days so the baby doesn't imprint on the bottle or begin to express a strong preference for it. Cup feeding is also a nice backup plan for families with a baby who refuses a bottle. Specialized cups, such as the Foley cup, have been designed specifically for feeding infants. It has a channel, similar to a straw, which fills a small reservoir which the baby drinks from. Gently squeeze the sides of the soft silicone cup while tilting it to fill the reservoir. Place the little reservoir against the baby's upper lip so that the milk touches the upper lip and wait for the baby to express interest. Usually, once the baby gets a taste of mom's milk, he will begin to drink, sip, or lap at the milk like a kitten. Keep the reservoir full and avoid pouring the milk into the baby's mouth. Starting with a calm baby is important. You will want to swaddle the baby's arms to avoid the baby hitting or grabbing the cup. Hold the baby in a semi-upright position. Expect spillage, so a bib or birth cloth will come in handy. A shot glass or other small glass is a simple, inexpensive alternative. Place the rim of the cup on the baby's upper lip. This will avoid loss of control and spilling milk directly into the baby's mouth. We want the baby to have complete control over taking the milk from the cup.
That's important.
Once the baby tastes the milk against the upper lip, he will either lap or sip the milk. It's important for the baby to be an active participant and in control of the feeding. Cup feeding has been used for a very long time as an alternative to feeding directly at the breast. Many cultures are skilled at feeding babies in this manner. In the U.S., cup feeding is more common in some communities than others. With simple tips, guidance, and practice, most families and babies can become proficient at cup feeding. With time, the baby will become very efficient with cup feeding, and it will take less time. We've found that babies find cup feeding enjoyable and a fun new experience.
So this isn't for just any baby, right? This is the backup plan. This is the thing you do if nothing else has worked. This is how you maintain hydration or get baby to gain weight when that poor stressed out parent has to go back to work. Medical piece of this. All right, guys, you got to know that there is such thing as infant feeding disorders, and they can be common and they can manifest later in infancy, but simple bottle refusal is not a disorder. However, it would be important to know some important things to pass along to the family so that they can talk to their doctor. So that would be choking, frequent gagging or vomiting, any coughing with feeding that's not related to an illness. Any decreased wet diapers, so when hydration becomes an issue, or maybe some signs of weight loss. As the periodic caregiver, you have an advantage in this time when the parents with their baby all day, every day, but you see them for just bits of the day or, every couple days, whatever the interval may be, you may see just like eyeball signs of weight loss more than they would, and it would be worth mentioning. Likely though, this family is already talking to their physician. They're already talking to an IBCLC, which is what I am, a lactation consultant, or a speech therapist who are swallowing specialists in infant land. And they're already talking to folks, and these things are already kind of being monitored. So don't take too much of that responsibility on yourself. Just know that those are the oh boy, when is this a problem type thing. So supporting the family. Last objective. Oh, another CDC infographic. So same place you can find the other one. Highly recommend printing these off, giving them to relevant caregivers, and posting them in relevant spaces. So the idea here is to problem solve, right? We can't actually problem solve the problem, but we can problem solve with curiosity and collaboration. Maybe this baby will take to the bottle eventually. Maybe they never do, and we just have to limp through it like this. But communicating to the family that your baby's well-being is important to us, let's work together on this, is going to go a long way for managing that person's stress. A lot of these families think they're doing this to you, or that you're judging them for them missing the boat on teaching their baby how to use a bottle, or that you're going to judge their baby or be annoyed with how much care that their baby's going to require because of this. They need to know that you've got their back and that you trust them in everything they did for this. So some scripting you can use here, just starting things with the word curious. I'm curious about how your family does this at home, or what strategies work at home in this. What are your thoughts on this? How would you like us to respond when XYZ happens? Or this is what we can do at our facility, this, and this. Which one do you think is going to be best for them? Talking in that manner instead of, we need more milk, we need a faster bottle flow, we need this, we need, just kind of being a collaborative caregiver. And be a cheerleader. Never admire quietly. Don't keep those things to yourself. If you admire something about someone, tell them. Humans are so fragile, and especially in this vulnerable state of life, they look to you as experienced caregivers, and it's important that we build each other up and we build them up. So I see how well your baby, how much your baby loves you. And it's a testament to the wonderful breastfeeding relationship you've had so far that we're in this spot, or how hard you must work to provide milk for your baby. Just little simple things like that really can go a long way in this family's well-being. Another CDC infographic. This one is just a basic breastfeeding one. And thank you. A note to you, the caregiver. Our society functions because you care, because you do your work every day. Never forget how valuable your work is to the communities that you care for and the families you are responsible for. You are appreciated beyond words, and you are so valuable to your community. Thank you so much for the hard work you put in, especially in complicated situations like this. If you're here, that means maybe you've been through this before and it was really hard. And you're looking for answers, and wow, how lucky that those families that you care for and the future families that you will care for are for you to have a person like you that's seeking out education and answers. So good on you. And to my family's childcare center, the Gingerbread House in Stoughton, thank you so much for loving my favorite people. I get to do the job I love because you love your job. Thank you. Additional resources and my contact information. And please know it's okay to contact me. Don't be shy. You're not bothering me. I have time for you. And then my boring reference slide. There, questions.
Katie, thank
So-
you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Go ahead.
that was really delightful. I found myself wondering where were you or information like this when I was in training. I learned things that I had not clearly picked up, or some of those animations were actually remarkable. I think they really highlighted some things really well.
Yeah, you know, honestly, I mean, I'm gonna stop sharing if that's okay. Then I'll look at the chat and stuff. There we go. You know, it's amazing how little medical professionals get in lactation education, and seeking out lactation providers or breastfeeding medicine specialists is really important for overall care of the family, and staying abreast, if you will, of that knowledge is important.
Let me start with one observation / question, and then a question, and then we'll go to a comment that was in the chat. One, I was told when I was doing rotations in the newborn intensive care unit as a resident that interestingly enough, when someone had a preterm baby, a preterm birth occur, that the milk composition that mother produced actually changed to meet the needs of that child. And also that, as to your comment about fat content, that even within the same feeding from the same breast, there's differences in composition. Are those still held to be the case?
That is true still, yes. People who are bodies who birth early know it, and they will make milk accordingly to protect that baby as much as possible. That milk has higher protein content and higher antibody quantities than the average newborn milk. And then as far as the milk content changing even throughout the actual feeding, yeah, that's true. Much like a lung with cystic fibrosis, the mucus is going to stick to the walls of that lung, and it requires that percussive therapy to get the mucus to fall into like the main area. The milk globule is a lot like that, where the fat sticks to the edges of the alveolus, and then if the watery milk kind of comes out first, and then following is the fattier milk, so fore milk or hind milk. And a lot of people like talk about that, but fore hind milk imbalances are very rare, and they're exclusive to families who have a high overproduction. So the average person does not need to worry about fore hind milk.
Sure. And then the question, the actual question I had was, I know the answer to this, but others may not. You've referenced several times that you're an IBCLC. Can you clarify what an IBCLC is and how that differs from the general term lactation consultant?
Absolutely. So an IBCLC is an international board certified lactation consultant. And I have to pass an international test that exhibits knowledge in all the exceptions of breastfeeding and lactation. There are other types of lactation specialists out there. A lactation counselor, or a CLC, is going to be certified in the general how-tos of how to latch and how to do general milk handling and whatnot. But the position I hold and the certifications I hold are necessary for the place where I work, which is the neonatal intensive care unit, where there's a lot of really rare exceptions to the norm of breastfeeding.
Thank you. Going back in the comments, which, as I hope you can see, are filled with people sending thanks and gratitude for all the information there. There's a comment earlier about a 4-month-old baby in my current group refused the bottle if he was held in a traditional manner. Dad said to lay him on my lap with his head by my knees. He would reach for the bottle and pull it in with some help and start feeding. After a week, I was able to slowly rotate him into my arms, and he's been feeding typically since. Still eats less, but growing well, turns 1 on Friday.
Isn't that funny? Babies are so funny with what they need for us. And even though they can't speak English, they certainly speak to us with what the requirements are. So I think that situation really speaks to like the flexibility we need to have with these kiddos, that the norm and what we've done for all the other babies might not work as well as what this one needs from us. And they're talking to us, they're communicating that to us by their refusal, by their participation, or by their lack of participation.
Sure. I appreciated your comments. And by the way, folks, if there's more questions or comments, please put them in the chat, put them in the Q&A box. We're happy to see them. While we're waiting for any further questions to come in, I love how you highlighted, right, that children need to be fed. There's many different ways to feed children and help them grow and so on. Yet there's a lot of emotion tied up in this. And I think parents can feel that if they're unable to successfully place a baby to their breast and have them latch on and grow well just simply from that, that it can feel like a failure, right? Many of our early childhood providers may be hearing from parents this very emotional kind of expressions of feeling like they're not doing something right. Do you have ways that you recommend messaging that and making that easier for them?
Yeah. Breastfeeding is about so much more than nutrition. There's a lot more to it than that. And to simplify it as nutrition would be doing it a disservice to its beautiful complexities. When I talk to families in the NICU who are clearly not getting the type of breastfeeding relationship they sought out for, one of the ways I talk to them, and as I say, I liken it to body image. We think there's this one body that we're supposed to aspire to or to be like, when in fact, all the bodies are beautiful and they work wonderfully in their own beautiful, unique way. And it's kind of like that with lactation. There's no one lactating breastfeeding experience that, to aspire to. The fact that there are so many nuances and differences in it is what makes it beautiful, and that it can be uniquely yours between you and your baby throughout the lactating journey, but also even from baby to baby. No two stories are the same, and that's wonderful.
Mm. I'll add on that since I get the privilege of having the really long-term view of children all the way up into young adulthood, I also add in for parents that, in the grand scheme of things, this is relatively minor. There are many other ways to fail as a parent, and when they're teenagers, they will remind you of every single one of them. So.
Yeah, I think that we often mistake our parenthood with our ability to lactate. When I try to tell mothers, your motherhood is not measured in ounces and how much milk you can make and how that milk gets to your baby. Your baby loves you for who you are. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be perfectly you for them.
Feeding is love, but there's an awful lot of other things that are also love, and there's room for all of them.
Yep.
Indeed. Katie, thank you so much. I'm going to turn it back over to Maria here. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for the engaging discussion today. As we wrap up today's webinar, the Early Childhood Health Consultation team is here to help answer your health and safety questions. In addition to webinars such as this one today, we also have a podcast called Teachers, Toddlers, and Tissues, as well as an on-demand resource library. Additionally, we have health consultation services to a growing number of locations across the state with the goal of statewide support. We invite you to save the date for our future ECHC webinars on November 21st and December 5th. More information, including future Zoom registration links, will be made available on our events page. If you haven't yet checked out Teachers, Toddlers, and Tissues, feel free to explore the 19 episodes available. You can listen using your favorite platform or learn more on our website, with the newest episode titled A Conversation About Food Insecurities. I'd like to turn it over to one of our nurse health consultants, Kristen, to tell us a little bit more about health consultation services.
Thank you, Maria. Hi, everyone. My name is Kristen Gabriel, and I am one of 2 nurse health consultants with the Early Childhood Health Consultation. On the previous screen that Maria had up, you could see Kelly O'Connor, who is the other one. And then, of course, Dr. Navsaria, who you've already met, who is our medical director and our go-to for any questions. I just wanted to talk for a moment about our health consultation process. The process starts with one of the early childhood providers, reaching out to us with a health question. This could be via text, phone call, email, or the form on our website. After your question comes in, either Kelly or myself will reach back out to you in most cases to learn more about your concern. And this step is really important in our process because it allows us to really get to the heart of what your needs are so that we can best serve you. After that comes the preparation stage, where we will gather resources and or connect with any other partners to help best address your needs. And then the consultation happens. And this could be a phone call, an email, a Zoom call, where we share any resources and additional information with you and go over any referrals that we want to discuss. Finally, after this part of the process, we always follow up. The timing varies, but it's usually about a week after. We'll check in to see, did these resources meet your needs? Have any other needs come up? Is there anything that we can help explain better? And as you can see in the middle of the process, it's really centered around trust and collaboration. And we work really hard to build this with you because we want to help support you best now and in the future. And as you can see on our map, we are excited about how our consultation services have expanded. We are currently serving almost 4,000 active providers, and we look forward to being able to provide statewide support. And I will turn it back over to Maria.
Great, thanks, Kristen. If you have future questions for our team, there's various ways to reach us: phone call or text, email, website, or you can also follow us on social media. This QR code will launch to various links, including the ones we just listed here. As we wrap up today's conversation, we'd like to say a special thanks to the many early childhood care providers who offer us ongoing guidance, including our advisory board of early childhood providers. We'd like to say a thanks to our colleagues from other child care health consultation programs across the country, our current project partners, and our past project team members. A few logistical reminders. In a moment, there'll be a survey link included in our webinar chat. This is where you can enter your information if you're interested in continuing education credit with the Wisconsin Registry. And then following the event next week, if you've registered for today's event and attended, you'll receive a link to the recording, a copy of the slides, and a copy to the survey link just in case it's needed. And then 2 weeks following the event, if you did enter any information for the Wisconsin Registry through the survey, that information will be directly entered electronically with the registry. If you're watching today's webinar recording and are interested in receiving credit, we invite you to explore the continuing education log with the Wisconsin Department of Children and Families. And so if you have joined Zoom through your cell phone today and are interested in locating where the chat panel is found, it will be found in the bottom left corner with an icon that will link you to the post-webinar survey link. And at this time, I'd like to direct your attention to the chat where you can locate the survey. Again, this is the route to take if you're interested in continuing education credit with the Wisconsin Registry, or if you'd like to share any feedback in ways we can improve future webinars. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Dr. Depeche-Nazvaria for closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Maria. And please, beyond the survey and these webinars, please recognize that we have webinars archived, as some of you have been asking in the chat, that are available for you to go back and watch whenever. We have a pretty good library built up there of information if you haven't been able to make it to all of these. We do have that podcast. And then, of course, as you just heard from our nurse, Kristen, our consultation for when you need something more specific that you haven't been able to find somewhere else. Please reach out. We're always happy to hear from you. Thank you again to Katie for her incredible information today. I hope it was enlightening, illuminating, and helps us all do a better job for children and families. And thanks for everything that you all do for children and families throughout the state of Wisconsin. It's deeply appreciated. Take care.